My name is Alex Hamilton. I'm series editor for Studies in Photography, our very first book, Strategic Arts, 35 Artists Who Broke the Rules, available online from Edinburgh University Press, or if you're a member of our organisation, please visit our website, studiesinphotography.com. I'm here with the author-editor, Christian Weikop, and we're going to go through the book and show you some of the highlights from it.
Klaus Rinke was based at the Kunst Academy in Düsseldorf and had worked with the likes of Joseph Boyce and Beuys and Blinky Palemo, and he really created sculptural installations using water as his element, in the same way as Adolf Luther used light, Rinke used water. And he had an exhibition in New York at the Museum of Modern Art where he exhibited an installation called Operation Poseidon. But at ECA in 1970, he had a water tank installation.
It really was shock of the new, in the sense that this jet of water going straight out, that people then had to duck around. It was just absolutely extraordinary. And it was one of the most controversial pieces in the sense that when they had to come around and vet all the different exhibits, that was one that caused a lot of problems.
One artist who was very much present at Strategic Arts was Stephan Ververka, and there's some fabulous photographs of Ververka by Monica Baumgartel and George Oliver. I mean, he contributed in several ways, but the most famous piece, I guess, was this installation or action on the grand staircase of ECA, which involved smashing bentwood chairs. A nod, I think, to Sergei Eisenstein's famous film Battleship Potemkin and the Odessa step sequence.
Verka, a lovely individual, but as like all the artists that turned up, he had a concept of having these chairs, but he didn't have any chairs. So part of the challenge was actually getting the chairs for him to smash up, which we did by going to a scrapyard in Preston Pans. But the smashing of the chairs was the thing which caused, I think amongst all of us, a lot of sort of sense of why this was such an incredible event, because it was just the way art was happening by the artist there and then on the spot. But it was also the piece that caused a lot of reaction from the college staff, because when they came in and saw the chairs, they went, "This is not art, what is this all about?" And they started to kick them out of their location, which again was an interesting reaction to observe.
Another artist, of course, another student, star student of Joseph Boyce, who has this really incredible reputation today, is the artist Blinky Palemo. And Palermo was known for his wall paintings, his wall murals that he created across Europe from about 1968 onwards, including Edinburgh in 1970. And he came and responded to the space. Another installation created sort of in situ, as it were, and he created his famous work called Blue, Yellow, White, Red, and this was, as I say, an intervention into the very fabric of the building.
I mean, as far as we were concerned, we were there just to support him, find the paint that he wanted, and he went up there and he painted the work in. It was the thing which was quickly painted out. One of the results of all the chaos that Strategic Arts created within the college, and then the reaction from the college authorities to wipe out that history.
So this year, of course, is the centenary of the birth of probably the most famous artist to come to Edinburgh College of Art for Strategic Arts, Joseph Boyce. And Boyce created three artworks, magnificent artworks, for the exhibition, one of which was called The Pack, which had been exhibited in Düsseldorf the previous year, a work owned by the gallerist Rennie Block, but it had its UK debut along with the other works in Edinburgh in 1970, August 1970.
First of all, loading the bus from the big truck that arrived from Germany. I think with Boyce very much fully involved in the process, getting all the sledges laid out. And again, I think in the book, the images show so well that journey from the back of the truck, taking it around the back of the art college and into this area here. And again, I think it was one of the star exhibits.
One of the most important artists who came to Strategic Arts, participated fully, was Gunter Ucke, who was associated with the group Zero, which was formed in Düsseldorf in 1957. But Ucke was known for creating these nail fields, often banging in thousands of nails into wooden boards, often covered in linen, sometimes into musical instruments or household objects, and exploring the play of light and shadow through these nails. But he didn't do that in Edinburgh, he didn't do that at ECA. Rather than using nails, he used butcher knives.
Which again caused an interesting range of challenges. I mean, the knives had to be inserted through a board. The board had to be created like in terms of a corridor. So you're walking down these knives towards a door that was banging. It was an incredibly powerful piece, but you can imagine it was one of the pieces which was very quickly considered to be quite dangerous in terms of the general public. So after again an inspection, the police said, no way this is going to happen. You're going to have to basically fence it in. And of course Ucke, in a very creative way, came up with an extraordinary notice, which I'm sure you're fully familiar with.
Sharp corridor blunted by police.
By police. Yeah. Which in its own way had the most incredible impact.
It did. I think he liked it, he found it more sinister.
Yeah, absolutely, it was more sinister.
Another artist who hailed from East Germany, like many actually who participated in Strategic Arts, many of these artists did actually originate in East Germany, from Saxony, then moved to Düsseldorf, was Gotthard Grauner. And Grauner exhibited his cushion pictures in Strategic Arts, but more importantly is his famous mist room. And Grauner had started creating these mist rooms around about 1968. The idea of responding to fog or mist, he wanted to do that in a different kind of way and move beyond the sense of sight and give the spectator an immersive experience. And so he did that in Edinburgh, not in relation to Friedrich, but in relation to a British romantic artist, responding to the British context. So he created this homage to Turner.
The mist room, or eventually the fire room, because as you know it actually had a rather tragic end. To create the mist, we had to use a smoke machine, which as a fuel was paraffin, highly dangerous. And because the walls of the room, it was a very small room, were covered in foam. One day when I went in to get it started, this machine suddenly burst into flames. The flames spread, quickly the whole room was engulfed, and we had a major fire on our hands. So the fire brigade came. It did then have this incredible then follow-on aspect to it, in the sense that, you know, the whole exhibition had nearly led to the art college being burnt down.
What really interests me, Alex, is that the idea for Strategic Arts first develops really in Gerhard Richter's studio in Düsseldorf in January 1970, when Richard DeMarco was on tour, his famous tour of Germany, and he met with Richter and he met with Ucke in Richter's studio there. And of course the exhibition of Richter's paintings at SGA, you know, this was the UK debut. So very, very important. And you know, Richter is considered to be one of our greatest living painters. I mean, he's an artist who hails from East Germany originally. He was born and raised in Dresden, and you know, he was a painter really of the GDR, producing wall murals, wall paintings for that political regime. But he fled the East for the West in 1961, just 2 months before the building of the Berlin Wall, and you know, he arrived in Düsseldorf ultimately and was part of the Düsseldorf scene, so-called. It was a real job to try and find out, you know, what information about the paintings at SGA, in that there are no photographs of the work in situ, strangely not captured. What we do have are these very rare vintage negatives that were developed for us by the National Galleries of Scotland that show students moving the paintings around a particular studio space. And some of those paintings were exhibited in the studio space, others were exhibited in the entrance hall, the sculpture court, and indeed one down a corridor. And they were not really much commented upon by the press at the time. And I think part of the reason for that is that, you know, although they're remarkable photo paintings, they were somehow lost in the huge building that is ECA, the fact that they were dispersed. And maybe in relation to some of the dramatic installations and happenings, even though they were breaking new ground, perhaps they looked a little bit conventional because this was still the practice of painting. And the 7 paintings that were shown represent his remarkable early landscapes, you know, incredible, demonstrating his famous blurring technique, which one critic famously described as a form of sight irritation.
It was part of the spirit of that event, but then it was very much artists arriving, working with the materials that they brought with them, and creating the installations in appropriate spaces. And Edinburgh College of Art.
The right thing of not being a gallery space.
Not being a gallery space.
A teaching institution, a working art college.
And the significance then of what happened here, making Richard DeMarco rethink the whole idea of what a gallery should be about.